Making Hybrid Work.
Welcome back to our special show where we are discussing what are the key ingredients into making hybrid work for your company and what are the key challenges that companies are facing. And Richa Nanavati is right here, and you've freshly joined Mahindra as a CIO after spending almost 2 decades in the US. Tell me, what were the challenges that you faced as a CIO? I mean, was, for instance, preserving culture of the organization despite going hybrid one of the key issues?
I think we are, at Mahindra, we are a people-first company in general. That is the culture. It probably took a little more effort because, making sure you're connected to every person in the company. Now, on one hand, it might have made it a little difficult. On the other hand, the fact that you could reach everybody at the same time through the collaborative tools that we have, amazing technology that we have now, made it a little easier. Earlier, you would have an auditorium full of people and you're giving a town hall. Now, our MD and CEO can, at a time, address the entire Mahindra group, every company. So there are things that worked really well as well. On your team's connection level, yes, I think we made additional efforts. I would say, virtual celebrations, meetings without agenda, happy hour online. Talk about it. I think the creativity had no bounds. Even in US, we actually celebrated Halloween and Diwali online. Here as well, we celebrated Ganpati and Diwali. So you had to make a little extra effort to reach everybody. I think the plus point has been the family connections. I mean, it was amazing. Early meeting, somebody had a little one on their lap, and now you know their family a little more as well. So I think, yes, there were challenges. I think especially in our, Mumbai, if you live in Mumbai, right, you have a smaller place, you got to do virtual meetings and all that. But at the same time, the flip side of it, you had to take advantage of the tech as well.
The cultural cohesiveness in some ways was better enabled by
it certainly was.
hybrid?
Yes, I think on larger scale, it was enabled really well.
Okay.
As I said, for smaller, your one-on-ones, your water cooler talks, you had to make a little extra effort.
Right.
And I believe we all made that. We all have done this, evening calls or bring your glass of wine or cup of tea or whatever and talk without agenda or check in on your employees. I think one of the things that the people first, just once again, comes out everywhere. Mahindra announced that if somebody succumbed to COVID, for example, we will pay 5 years of their salary. We will pay for the kids' education. Anand at one point donated his whole salary.
Right.
So that culture, it permeates through everything, whether it is with technology or in person.
Deepu, let me come to you here because while we've talked a little bit about culture, and of course every company has approached it differently, but one of the key aspects, and this is a concern that organizations have, is about the security, especially when it comes to data. And though you're representing the insurance side of the business, but BFSI is a highly regulated space and a lot of data security is there. Is that a concern? I mean, how have you managed some of those requirements in this hybrid world? Some of the regulatory requirements as well as, data privacy requirements?
Yeah. Security was certainly, a key focus area at the start of the pandemic. But as they say, the results bear out the fact that firms focused on it because you haven't seen a spike in cybersecurity incidents in the last couple of years. So what firms did, invested heavily in cybersecurity because now people are accessing work from devices, right? And the whole approach was device agnostic.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're in the office or if you're outside. So we ensured, for example, things like role-based access. So you have access to various parts of the system depending on the role you are in. We also invested, heavily in cybersecurity. I can't share the tricks of the trade because obviously we need to prevent, fraudsters from coming in. We also leveraged analytics because we looked at patterns, to figure out, what could be potential areas. And more importantly, we also focused on training.
Because we find in some of the studies that one of the key aspects that sort of prevents firms from diving headlong into the hybrid aspect is actually some of the concerns regarding security. Dhaval, what was the key obstacle that you faced as a CIO?
So, if you are referring to the fact that what were the obstacles getting into the hybrid work model, clearly security was one of the concerns, I would say, and then we had to take a multifold approach to be able to address that. We looked at it in 3 clear parts. It was people, process, and technology, that the 3 have to work together to be able to deliver the end outcome that you're looking at. So, for example, when you look at the people, imparting them the right knowledge, what is phishing, what is wishing, how can you fall prey to it?
So you had to reskill your workforce as well.
We had to reskill, we had to retrain, we had to, for example, even simulate We did the red teams and the blue teams, and we did certain simulation exercises also to see how good people are when it comes to the knowledge of the entire cyber security. Then came the entire process part of it, where we said that, what are the do's and don'ts. Again, it somewhere ties with the educational part, but that's what gets enabled by technology. And then technology, there were multiple interventions we did. For example, we recently invested into a cloud proxy solution also, which will provide you a seamless access whichever network you are connecting from, and at the same time not impair the work that you are trying to deliver.
A key point, Peter, that you raised, and that was in the study that you did, is that, employee morale and employee empowerment to really believe in this system, that they can stay at home and still be connected and still have the same level of appraisal and ratings as to whether they were in the office or at home. How do you think companies need to re-look at this, wherein employees are given the confidence and organizations also given the tools to make sure that that bias is removed?
Yeah. So as she mentioned, Mahindra, with the people first, right? So and if hybrid is the future and that's what employees want to go, you need to figure out a way to do that. So one of the things that we are beginning to see is the need for employee autonomy. So it's about the employee deciding, right, how will he get to his responsibility without any issues, irrespective of where and when he works from.
Deepu, do you acknowledge and agree with this point that perhaps employees are not being empowered enough to succeed in the hybrid workplace?
I don't really, agree with that. I beg to differ. What we need to understand is, that COVID was universal, right? Across industries, across countries, and everybody adopted work from home. It was the largest lockdown in human history. And, firms have, definitely, tested waters and come out successful. For example, let's look at some of these tech majors asking people to come back to the workplace, right? I have a friend, who was working there, and he's telling me that the reason I joined this company is the campus. But if I'm working from home, I might as well go to the highest bidder, which means the one who pays me the highest salary. So firms are realizing this, and to overcome the centripetal forces, they are basically saying, let's get people back into the office so they get a taste of the culture. So it's a combination of empowering employees while ensuring that the core stays intact.
Dhaval, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so there is this fear of disengagement, which is, I think, very real also. Where we have had, heard of cases where people have joined the company during COVID and left during COVID also. Yeah, right. And they've never set a foot in the office. And I think largely it is attributable to the disengagement because the employee doesn't have that bond with the company. He never got a chance to do that. To, for example, gel with the peers, speak to the bosses, speak to his subordinates.
So is that possible at all? I mean, in a hybrid workplace, is it possible at all for employees to really get that sense of the culture of the company, the warmth of the people? Do we have the tools to do that?
I think completely being remote it's very difficult. I'll tell my personal example. I joined during COVID and I was craving to go meet my team in person, my boss, my team and so on.
Right.
And I do think that while a very well-defined work has, and we've all survived, taking nothing away from that, but when you want to ideate, when you want to innovate, when you want to brainstorm and whiteboard and talk over each other and passionately have that discussion, I think the tools, I do believe, fall a little short.
In your words then, Rucha, because I think we need to define or redefine hybrid in that case. I mean, I'm seeming to hear many different versions. So, Rucha, how do you see the hybrid workplace now, in the now and also in the future?
Yeah, I think leave the word hybrid aside. I think in general, we are a people-first company. We are returning to work. We are coming back to work with full flexibility that somebody needs to conduct their transition and their life.
Deepu, would you like to, how would you say the hybrid world is going to look in the next few years?
So 2 dimensions. I think one is employee flexibility and parity. You want to make sure that whether you're working from home or working from office or wherever, working from anywhere, it's outcome based. The other is, initially the onus was on digitizing the physical. Today the onus is on humanizing the digital. How do you bring in the best of both?
Dhaval?
So I would take the element of hybrid away from the workplace or possibly the location from where you're discharging your responsibilities and apply it to the workforce. I would say I would look at my workforce as being hybrid. I have to clearly identify as to who are those who need to be in office. Identify those who may need to be in office on a need basis, and then there can be a population which can work 100% from home. This is purely based on kind of responsibilities they are required to discharge, and at the same time what kind of KRAs they are handling, and keep the customer at the center of the whole thing. That is extremely important, that you are somewhere not diluting the proposition that you're offering to your customer or your stakeholders outside of your ecosystem.
Okay, final word goes to you, Peter.
Yeah, so I think all these comments kind of reinforce what I said. Hybrid is not remote. Sometimes we interchangeably use it. Hybrid, and the way hybrid is going to evolve, in our opinion, from what we have seen in the surveys, is if you empower your employee, they will know what is good for the customer and for the organization, and you trust them, they will figure out when to come and stuff like that. If you start dictating what it is, today we may have to, because we may be still raw, but it will evolve into a situation where employees should be able to decide. They are good, they will know. If I have to come to office, I will. If I need water cooler moments, I will. So then you build and redesign your offices to take care of the needs. And when he has to work from home, provide him with the technology which will equally enable him to participate in a meeting when he can't come, he or she can't come.
Fantastic. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been such an energizing conversation. And as I said, great to have you back in person, but we'll also see you on those online conversations as well, because that's the new world we live in. Hybrid is the new reality in this post-pandemic world. So clearly there are different requirements. Companies are approaching it in different ways and means, but all employees want that flexibility while also staying productive and staying empowered in this new hybrid world. Thank you so much for joining us on this special discussion.